Hey, I'm back with another episode, Mike Styles, with the Mike Styles Experience podcast. This week I wanted to talk about going beyond the limit and what more can we do to be better. We all have dreams and goals. However, most people won't ever realize them. And that's because most of us, we'll let our limits hold us back. Now, the limits that I'm talking about, they come in different forms. They can be physical limits, doubt and fear, whatever. But, it causes us to miss out on some pretty amazing opportunities. And you see, we can either make the decision to be stuck in one state, or we can choose to go beyond our limits and get better in the process. The only limits that we have are the ones that are self-imposed. Self-imposed limitations, they keep us from achieving our full potential. And when we do this, we put a limit on what's achievable. And I believe that it's all psychological. You know what I'm saying? Overcoming self-imposed limitations is something that most people struggle with. And for every level of success that we want to achieve, I believe that we have to go beyond that in order to gain the most value out of our desired outcome. We have to go beyond the state of success and really challenge ourselves. I think it's important to not only reach a certain level of success, but we have to ask ourselves, what more can we do to be better? I say that because there's always room for improvement. And just when you start to think that you've reached your full potential, you'll soon realize that there's something more to be done in order to reach that next level. If not, we soon become self-limiters. Self-limiters are people who make excuses for the lack of success or for their lack of success. They'll blame anyone and anything but themselves. They'll place the blame on maybe like a lack of time, a lack of resources, and just about anything else that you can think of to explain the reason for their poor performance. And then they'll also attempt to diminish the accomplishment of others by telling themselves that person was lucky or that person has it all figured out. And the reality is that we need to be looking at the person in the mirror. And I'll admit that there are times where we can find ourselves against the wall, but I believe that in order to overcome the limitations, we have to consciously break through the limits of our minds. Accept the fact that life doesn't offer you anything in your hands. It's just not that easy. Nothing worth doing is ever valuable if it comes too easy. And honestly, I would be cautious of such things if they did. Life isn't the problem. And I say that because we often hear the expression, life sucks. And the point I'm trying to make is that the problem is in our thinking, the way we think. So life doesn't suck. It's just that our way of thinking sucks. Again, this sucky way of thinking is what keeps us from going beyond the limit. We could be right there at the edge of our limits and then we just give up. Wouldn't you like to see what's beyond that edge? But how do we get there? How do we go beyond the limits? Now, I wanted to first start out by saying exceed the limit. And what I mean is that you don't want to just, get to that line. You don't want to just get to that edge. And I think, this is what causes us to get comfortable. We see the limit on the horizon and then we say to ourselves, I could take my foot off the gas for a little bit. But nah, man, you got to mash the gas so that you can have enough momentum to get you over that hump, because there could be a wall on the other side. And the last thing you want to do is slow down, because if you do, you're not going to have enough momentum to bust through it. You're going to hit that wall and crash. See, when you go the distance, you're forcing an unprecedented result. You're going to impress yourself because it's going to be something that you've never done or known before. So you have to exceed the limit no matter what. Now, moving right along, this next one is one of those things that can stop us when it comes to our limits. And to go beyond the limit, you have to be willing to go places others won't or can't go. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's so many of us that, you know, we go through life leaving things to chance, and we often prefer to wait for something to happen. And what I'm getting at is that we would do just the right amount of what's needed, you know, in terms of going beyond the limit, but then the remainder is left for somebody else to come along and finish. The problem with that mentality is that it leads us to consider ourselves unsuccessful. And that's because we look at where we waited for so long, we can't seem to understand that nobody else is coming to finish what you've started. I mean, they shouldn't have to. But when we go to places others can't or want, you know, you force the world to pay attention. Like I said, you're doing something that most people are not willing to do. And I think that in itself is spectacular. You know, you have to be able to kind of go into that zone, you know, a zone that can't be explained. You know, look at all the people that we consider great and who have done great things. And I'm just using these guys as examples, like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, John Jones, Anderson Silva, etc. You know, I consider these guys great, not just because of what they've done in their respective areas and in their careers. I consider them great because they were able to go beyond their limits, and that meant they had to go into places where most other people are afraid to go. And it's just something uncanny about it. So before you can go beyond the limit, you have to know your battle and fight it, which is the next one. Know your battle and fight it. And I put an extra emphasis on the word your because it's important to know what your struggle is. It's important to know, you know, what areas, you know, you struggle with. And just like all the greats that I mentioned before, you know, don't think that they were without their struggles, their battles. We all got them, but not many of us are able to fight it. That's why I said you have to know your battle and fight it. You know, for me, my battles are procrastination and self-doubt. And you can have more than one, but it's something that I'm trying to work hard on, you know, and very hard to change. So you have to fight your struggles every day. And honestly, the real battle is against ourselves. It's like the old saying, we can be our own worst enemies. So know your battle and fight it without an end. You know, fight your battle of not being enough. You know, fight your battle of proving that you're valid. Fight your battle of embracing the fear of being rejected. Fight against your ego and fight the battle of feeling the need to be accepted. Fight your battle against the need to fit in and conform. To me, this is what it means to go beyond the limit. Now, this next one is one where if you're going to go beyond the limit, you have to be in control. You know, be in control, take control. And I'm not saying that you have to be on some egomaniacal power trip bullshit, but you have to be in control and you have to take control. That way you don't leave things in the air and you don't leave things to chance. To go beyond the limit, you have to go further. You have to wear yourself out. And if you want to go beyond the limit, don't be afraid to risk everything to achieve it. If it's not within your reach, make sure that you do everything that you can every day in order to move you closer and eventually beyond your limit. But like I said, you have to be in control. It's the only thing that's going to make you stand out. In addition to being in control, you have to be willing to expose yourself to the world. And that's because not many people are willing to do that. They simply aren't willing to learn daily lessons and all the failures and problems that come with it. I get it. Nobody wants to look like a failure. Nobody wants to make a mistake. But you have to be willing to accept that as a part of going beyond the limit. Our failures and mistakes must be on full display. There's no hiding it. And at the same time, you have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to not be accepted. You have to be willing to be ridiculed. And then once you've gone through all of that, it's not over, because you're going to have to be willing to fight against self-sabotage and fight against destructive criticism. Be willing to be more capable today and the next day after that. So that's been this week's episode. I just wanted to get that off my mind while it was still fresh. Go beyond the limit. There are no limits in life. The only limits that we have are the ones in our minds. These are the limits that we place on ourselves. So it's important to remember that we must overcome our self-limiting beliefs. And before I get out of here, let me leave you with this quote from Bruce Lee, who many consider as the father of mixed martial arts. He said, "If you always put a limit on everything you do, physical or anything else, it will spread into your work and into your life. There are no limits. There are only plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond them." So think about that the next time you start putting limits on yourself. So until next time, I want you to take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and make sure you download, subscribe, share this from whatever platform that you use to listen to podcasts on. And, thanks for listening. Peace.